Doing all right?
Yeah. Don't sound.
I started writing this a long time ago, actually. I started writing the script 7 years ago. I was trying to make Thank You for Smoking at the time, and no one wanted to make that movie. I had written the screenplay, and you're clapping for the fact that no one wanted to make it? You are a brutal audience. Okay. Everyone was friendly in Arizona. So, no one would make that film. I had written the screenplay, and I always intended it to be my first film, but no one would make it, and years went by, and I was getting offered very bad films. I had made short films, I had made commercials, and I remember the movie Dude, Where's My Car was offered to me twice. And that was very tempting at the time. I mean, you have to imagine, I was a young director, and that was the opportunity to be on a set, making a movie, and I turned it down. I turned it down with the idea that I wanted to make personal films. And had I directed Dude, Where's My Car, my career would have taken a very sharp turn. It would take me a long time to get back to films like this. And I found Up in the Air was a book. I found it in a bookshop, a great bookstore in LA called Book Soup, and it was just sitting there. And I started reading it and fell in love with it and began adapting it, and got about 30 pages into my screenplay, when my agent got a call saying there's an internet millionaire. He's one of the creators of PayPal. He and his partner sold PayPal to eBay for $1.5 billion. He has some extra spending cash and would like to pay for Thank You for Smoking. And the guy literally wrote a check for $6 million, and that's how I made my first movie. Now, the funniest part of that is that I'm the son of a famous director. I'm not sure how many of you knew that. My father's name is Ivan Reitman. He directed Ghostbusters and Dave and Stripes, and he produced Animal House. My entire life, people have basically teased me and told me that if I ever had a career in the film business, it would be the direct result of nepotism. So it was a big surprise when no one made my first movie. I thought, isn't that how it's supposed to work? And it ended up taking an internet millionaire from San Francisco to pay for my film. I made my first film, and after Thank You for Smoking, I went back to writing Up in the Air, and I wrote about another 30 pages when I got a call from a friend who said, there's a screenplay you have to read. And I said, great, what is it? He said, it's a teen pregnancy comedy written by a former stripper. I said, wow, that sounds fantastic. I can't wait to read that. And a few hours later, I opened my door, there's a messenger with an envelope. I started reading the script, and I realized, 15 minutes later, I was still standing next to my front door reading Juno, which was a screenplay that changed my life. It was just the kind of, it was the kind of script that I knew if I did not direct, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And I campaigned for that film and stopped writing Up in the Air again, went and made Juno. And at the end of that process, I finally came back and I finished writing Up in the Air. Now, at this point, I'd been writing it for basically 5 years, and my life had completely changed. When I first started writing this movie, I was a single guy living in an apartment, and by the time I finished the screenplay, I was married, I'd become a father, I had a mortgage. I started to learn, at least for myself, what was important in my life, and reading the script for the first time was very strange because I watched myself grow up, act by act, and I had to go back and rewrite the script so that there was kind of tonal consistency from start to finish. When I finished the script, I had been writing it for George Clooney. And, it seemed like an outlandish idea, but he was the only person I could imagine playing this role. And I told his agent that I was writing it for him. And at one point he called me and he said, how's it going on that script? And I said, well, I'm either a week away from done or a month away from done. But in the middle, I'm going on vacation with my wife to Italy, so I'll either give it to you before or after. And he said, well, if you're going to be in Italy, you should go see George. And I said, that's an awful idea. What if he hates the script? I don't want to show up if he hates the script. And he goes, well, no, he wants to see you. I said, well, look, I'll finish the script, I'll get it to you. If he likes it, I'll go by. And I'm in Italy, I'm with my wife, I called the agent, I said, so should I go? He said, yes, go see him. Here's the address, here's the directions, go see him. So I get to his house, in Lake Como, and I'm very nervous. And one of the first things George asked me is, "So, what are you working on these days?" I'm like, "This screenplay?" That he's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta find that. I gotta read that thing. Where is that?" And so my wife and I stayed with him, and for days we're like wondering if he's gonna read this script or not. I'm totally uncomfortable. I have to imagine he's uncomfortable too. He doesn't want to read it and hate it, and then he's got this house guest that he needs to get rid of. And over those days, I'm like just trying to live up to his kind of sense of manliness, I guess. I don't know. He was like, he wanted to play basketball. I haven't played basketball since like 8th grade, and I'm like, all right, and I he's good. He played college basketball. Then he wanted to stay up one night and drink. I never ever drink. But like, what are you gonna do? Say no to drinking with George Clooney? But the man's like Irish, you know. He literally pulled out like 4 bottles of wine. I don't know how I'm still alive after that evening. And 2 days in, he walked up to me at one point and said, "I just read the script. It's great. I'm in." And that was a moment that, again, I mean, it was like receiving the Juno screenplay, just life-changing moment. And we talked about the movie all night long and how he was going to play the role. One of the first things he said was great. He said, "You know, I see how people are going to draw similarities between my persona and this character, and I'm ready to stare that straight in the eyes." And I thought, what a cool thing for an actor to say, particularly one as successful as him, who never really needs to approach anything like this. And it was a wonderful experience working with him and making this film, and I'm thrilled that you all came out to see it tonight. So I want to take your questions, but there's someone that I need to introduce first, if that's okay. We have a very special guest in the audience tonight. I've gotten to introduce all kinds of people over the last few years of having a film career, and I get to introduce actors all the time. But it is rare that I get to introduce someone who changed my childhood. One of the greatest rappers to ever live. Ladies and gentlemen, your own Young MC.
Change your childhood? That's brilliant. Don't make me feel too old.
Do you know how many times I've danced to you?
The funny thing, the one little thing that I can add to it is, I don't know if you knew this, but on the day we were shooting, your wife came up to me and told me how you had written me into the script from, I guess, five or 7 years in, or whatever it was. And she said that she was telling you to go with a plan B just in case I wouldn't go for it.
Yeah.
Because, no, the funny thing is that I get asked all the time, it's like, could you please be yourself singing your song in a film? And it's the same thing like with Dude, Where's My Car? It's like, I'm not going to do that for everybody. And even when Mandy, the casting director, had called me, I was like iffy about it. She called me probably about 7 or 8 months before we shot, and I was iffy about it. I'm like, okay, if it's going to happen, get back with me. I didn't know know much. And then she brought your name up, and I knew I had seen Thank You for Smoking, and I liked it. And then I kind of heard a little bit about George, but then I had seen your work, and then all you guys were so nice, so I said, fine, I'll do it. And it's probably one of the best career decisions I've made in the last several years, so it's a great thing.
Thank you. I'm so happy. It's the first time I've seen him since being on set. It's good to see you. How'd you like? How'd you like to see it?
I loved it.
It's not bad, right?
No, it's real good.
It turned out okay.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, especially worse decisions you can
Especially
make.
the part where you left me in, because I was like, oh no, they're going to cut me out.
No, I stayed on you for a while.
Yeah, no, definitely. You took care of me, man. Definitely. Thanks, Jason. All right, we'll talk after, man.
All right, I'll see you in a bit.
All right.
I'm so happy you said yes. I didn't want to have to go to raw bass. I did not want to have. All right, so any questions for me or Young MC? Yeah.
Well, speaking of music, your movies, all of them, just have a great soundtrack.
Thank you.
How do you go about figuring out what bands, like you've got some of the best independent bands out there in your movies? Like, how do you?
It starts really early. And music is part of my writing process. I start developing a library of iTunes songs, 200-300 deep, while I'm writing the screenplay. And once I finish writing, I give all those songs to my editor. She starts cutting the movie to those songs, and we slowly whittle it down to like 12 or 13 tracks and wind up in the movie. I try to use as much unknown music as possible.